In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled between dense woods and rolling hills, life moved at a pace dictated by the whispers of wind and the songs of birds. It was a place where neighbors knew each other's names, where trust and simplicity ruled. Amid this peace lived Anna, a devoted mother whose world revolved around her bright-eyed, 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Life had been far from easy for Anna, who had become a widow 3 years prior when her husband, Tom, a kind and humble carpenter, passed away suddenly. Yet, Anna had managed to build a life filled with warmth and hope for her little girl. Their modest home stood at the edge of the woods, where the boundary between civilization and the untamed wild was marked by an old, creaking wooden fence. It was here that Lily would play for hours on end, weaving crowns of daisies and pretending to be the queen of the forest. Often, Anna would watch her from the kitchen window, her heart swelling with both love and a bittersweet ache at how much Lily resembled Tom. One early autumn evening, as twilight cast long, golden fingers across the landscape, Anna and Lily shared laughter over a simple dinner of baked bread and stew. They were unaware of the dark pair of eyes watching from the woods, a lean, gray wolf with an almost regal bearing. To the townsfolk, the appearance of such a creature would have been met with panic, yet this wolf was different. His eyes, intelligent and fierce, held stories untold, and on this night, he lingered, drawn by an unknown force toward the light and warmth within Anna's home. Anna's life took a sharp turn that night when a loud knock at the door shattered the peace. Before she could react, the wooden frame splintered as 2 masked men burst inside. Panic surged through her veins as she grabbed Lily, pulling her into her arms. The intruders, their faces shadowed by crude ski masks, shouted demands: money, jewelry, anything of value. Fear rooted Anna to the spot, her mind racing for a way to protect her child. Outside, the wolf's ears perked up at the commotion. His gaze shifted from curious to alert, his body tensing as he stepped closer to the house, paws silent on the fallen leaves. The scent of fear mixed with the cool, crisp air, igniting something deep within him. Inside, chaos reigned. The taller of the 2 men, voice thick with impatience, grabbed Anna by the arm, pulling her away from Lily. The little girl screamed, her tiny fists hitting the intruder's legs. The noise filled the room, blending with Anna's pleas for mercy. The second man, more cautious, glanced nervously out the window, fingers twitching around the handle of his knife. "Shut the kid up," he barked, his eyes flicking between his partner and the dense shadows outside. Anna's heart shattered as Lily's sobs turned into hiccups, her wide eyes searching her mother's face for a reassurance she could not give. In that moment, Anna felt utterly powerless, a sense of defeat washing over her. But as despair seeped into her soul, the wolf made his move. From the edge of the woods, he bounded toward the house, a silent predator with muscles coiled and eyes burning with a purpose that even he did not understand. His fur rippled in the dim light as he leaped over the old fence, landing with a thud that startled the man closest to the window. "What was that?" the man hissed, peering out just in time to see a flash of gray fur. The sound of scratching at the door was enough to send a shiver down Anna's spine. The taller intruder turned, eyes narrowing, while Lily's cry cut through the tension like a knife. In the split second that followed, the door, already weakened, gave way under the weight of the animal that hurled itself inside. The wolf stood there, framed by the broken doorway, eyes locked on the scene before him. He seemed both guardian and avenger, a figure that was at once terrifying and awe-inspiring. Silence fell over the room, thick and suffocating, as the men stared, frozen in disbelief. Anna's gaze met the wolf's, and a flicker of recognition sparked, a memory of seeing this lone figure on many a quiet evening as she watched Lily play. But there was no time to dwell. The wolf stepped forward, each movement calculated and deliberate. His deep growl rumbled through the room, more powerful than any shout. It was a sound that spoke of protection, warning, and an unspoken promise that no harm would come to those behind him. The standoff began, the air crackling with tension. For the first time that night, Anna felt hope stir deep within her chest. The room stood in suspended terror as the wolf's eyes scanned the faces of the intruders, his gaze hard as steel. His low growl sent shivers down Anna's spine, but instead of fear, she felt an unexpected surge of protection swell within her. The taller man, clearly rattled, took a cautious step backward, his grip on Anna loosening for just an instant. She seized the opportunity, pulling Lily to her chest and backing up against the wall, her body a shield between her daughter and the chaos. The second intruder, younger and more skittish, held his knife with a trembling hand. "Get it out of here," he shouted, the panic in his voice betraying his nerves. But the wolf was unmoved, a silent guardian, his fur bristling like a storm cloud. The kitchen clock ticked on, a maddening reminder of each second that passed in a standstill. Lily's small hands clung to Anna's dress, her tear-streaked face peeking out just enough to see the majestic creature in front of them. Her eyes, still wide with fright, held a glimmer of something else: fascination. The wolf's presence was like something out of her stories, a savior that had leapt from the pages of her bedtime tales into their living room. Suddenly, the taller man lunged forward, breaking the silence. He aimed a clumsy kick at the wolf, hoping to drive it back. But the animal moved with a grace that defied its size, sidestepping the assault effortlessly. In one fluid motion, he bared his fangs and snapped his jaws, a warning so primal it made the man stumble. "Do something!" the panicked man screamed, his voice cracking as his partner hesitated, eyes darting between the door and their apparent doom. The wolf advanced another step, his growl deepening, eyes fixed with an intensity that rooted them in place. It was a look that spoke of dominance, of the unyielding spirit that had kept him alive in the harsh wilderness. Anna, still pressing Lily to her chest, dared to whisper, "Stay calm, my love. Don't move." Her voice trembled, but she tried to infuse it with a strength she didn't feel. The younger intruder, realizing that their plan had gone horribly wrong, dropped his knife with a clang that seemed to echo forever. He bolted for the shattered doorway, ignoring the splinters that tore at his arms as he pushed past. The wolf's eyes flicked to him but didn't follow. This was not a hunt. This was defense. The taller man, now alone, breathed heavily, sweat glistening on his brow. You don't scare me," he spat, though the quiver in his voice betrayed him. But even as he blustered, his knees began to shake. The wolf, sensing victory, took another step forward, his eyes locking with Anna's for the briefest moment. In that glance, she felt an understanding pass between them, as if the creature knew he was not only protecting his own territory but defending the helpless within it. With one last desperate shout, the remaining man made a final attempt to lunge at Anna and Lily, hoping to grab what little he could before fleeing. The wolf surged forward, a blur of muscle and fur, his body colliding with the man in a forceful impact that sent him crashing to the floor. The would-be robber scrambled backward, eyes wide with terror, before managing to pull himself to his feet and stagger out into the night, leaving behind the shattered door and the echoes of chaos. The wolf stood there, chest heaving, as the house fell silent again. Anna's breath came in shallow gasps as she looked at the animal that had just saved their lives. He turned his head, eyes softening as they met hers. Lily, peeking out from the safety of her mother's embrace, whispered, "He's not scary, Mama. He's our guardian." For a moment, time seemed to pause. The wolf's eyes shifted to Lily, his ears perking up as if listening to the voice of a child was more precious than any sound he had ever known. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he turned and padded to the threshold, pausing only to glance back one last time before disappearing into the shadows of the woods. Anna sank to the floor, holding Lily close as the adrenaline ebbed and exhaustion took over. Outside, the night resumed its calm, the breeze rustling leaves as if nothing had happened. But within the small house, hearts raced with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and awe. The town of Willow Creek would soon hear whispers of what had transpired, but for now, only Anna, Lily, and the silent, watchful wolf knew the depth of courage and connection forged that night. And though the creature had returned to the forest, his presence lingered, not as a threat but as a promise that, sometimes, heroes come from the most unexpected places. The days following the break-in were filled with an unsettling silence, as if the house itself held its breath. Anna worked tirelessly to repair the shattered door, her hands moving mechanically, but her mind lingered on the memory of the wolf. She couldn't shake the intensity in those eyes, the sense of understanding that passed between them. Lily, in her innocent way, spoke often about their guardian, drawing pictures with chubby crayons of a noble wolf crowned with stars, watching over them like a silent protector. The townspeople, however, buzzed with fearful whispers. Willow Creek, usually so serene, now hummed with tension. Neighbors came by, bringing casseroles and cautious words, their eyes flitting nervously toward the woods as they spoke. There were those who believed the wolf was a bad omen, a sign that something terrible was on the horizon. Others, recalling old folk tales, whispered about guardian spirits that emerged in times of great peril. Sheriff Hank Miller, a man of practical means with a bushy mustache and a no-nonsense attitude, paid Anna a visit. His eyes, sharp and appraising, swept over the room as she recounted the night's events. "So, you're saying a wolf, a wild animal, chased off 2 armed men and then just left?" His voice was laced with skepticism, as if daring her to admit it was a fabrication. "Yes, Hank," Anna said, meeting his eyes with quiet resolve. "He didn't hurt us. He was there to protect us." The sheriff sighed, removing his hat to scratch at his temple. "Wolves don't protect people, Anna. They're predators. I'll send out some men, see if we can track it. Can't have a dangerous animal roaming around town, not with children playing near the woods." "No," Anna said quickly, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. "He's not dangerous. He saved us." Hank's eyes narrowed, a line of doubt creasing his brow. "We'll see, but if it comes down to it, my job is to keep this town safe." After he left, Anna's heart twisted with dread. The idea of the wolf being hunted, shot, or trapped made her chest tighten painfully. That night, unable to sleep, she sat by the window, staring out at the moonlit woods, silently willing him to stay hidden, to stay safe. But fate has a way of entwining paths that were never meant to part. 2 nights later, in the stillness before dawn, Anna was woken by the soft, urgent voice of Lily. "Mama, he's back." The words were whispered, almost reverently. Anna's pulse quickened as she followed Lily to the window. There, under the silvery wash of moonlight, sat the wolf, poised at the edge of the woods like a guardian carved from stone. His eyes, fierce yet warm, were fixed on the house. He looked not at the threat within the forest, but directly at Anna and Lily, as if ensuring they were safe. Lily's small hand pressed against the glass, and for a moment Anna could have sworn the wolf's ears twitched in response, as if acknowledging the child's silent greeting. It wasn't fear she felt, but a strange, profound sense of connection. This wolf, so fierce and wild, was more than an animal. He was their silent hero. The morning air was tense with rumors. Outside the general store, groups gathered, their conversations a mix of disbelief and dread. Mrs. Callahan, the town's oldest resident and keeper of old tales, shook her head at the anxious crowd. "There was a time," she said, her voice gravelly with age, "when wolves were not just creatures of the forest, but guardians. They came when the innocent needed them most." Anna thought of those words as she stood at the edge of the woods later that day, heart pounding. The scent of pine and moss was thick, grounding her as she struggled with the decision gnawing at her. She could hear distant shouts, the sheriff's men, tracking through the underbrush with dogs trained to follow a scent. The wolf would be found if he lingered too long. A rustle broke her thoughts, and there he was, stepping into view with a silent elegance. They stood there, woman and beast, staring at each other across the fragile line between civilization and the wild. His eyes met hers, filled with the same fierce intelligence that had saved her and Lily. "Go," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "They're coming for you." The wolf's ears twitched, as if he understood. He looked toward the house one last time, where Lily's laughter drifted through the open window like a song, before turning and disappearing back into the forest, a shadow swallowed by the morning light. But just as Anna turned to leave, The distant sound of dogs barking pierced the air, closer now. The sheriff's search party was almost upon them. Her heart raced as she fought the urge to run after the wolf, to warn him again, but she knew it was too late. Lily's voice echoed in her memory. "He's brave, Mama. He'll be okay." Anna swallowed the lump in her throat, praying that the child's faith would hold true. As a crimson dawn crept over Willow Creek, Anna's restless night bled into the morning. The search parties had fanned out, the town's anxiety growing with each passing hour. The rhythmic barks of the sheriff's dogs still haunted her ears. Every rustle of leaves outside made her heart jump, each noise a reminder that somewhere out there, their guardian was being pursued. Determined not to wait helplessly, Anna decided to act. She bundled Lily in a warm coat, kissed her forehead, and left her in the care of their neighbor, Mrs. Callahan. The old woman, who had seen the world through eyes both wise and kind, squeezed Anna's hand and whispered, "Trust in the bond, dear. Sometimes it's deeper than we can understand." With that, Anna set off toward the woods, her steps quick and purposeful. The morning air was crisp, filled with the earthy scent of fallen leaves. Her breath puffed in white clouds as she moved deeper, her eyes scanning the dense forest for any sign of him. She knew that if the sheriff found the wolf first, mercy would not be part of their plan. Suddenly, a distant shout broke through the quiet. "Over here!" The voices of the search party echoed closer. Panic gripped Anna as she pushed forward, ducking beneath low branches and ignoring the sting of twigs scratching her arms. She needed to find him before they did. After what felt like an eternity, she stumbled into a small clearing, where the underbrush lay flattened and the scent of wildness hung heavy. Her eyes widened when she saw him. There, by the stream, stood the wolf. His fur, usually sleek and strong, was matted with leaves and traces of mud, but his posture was proud, unyielding. He turned to look at her, recognition and something deeper flickering in his gaze. "Please, you have to go," Anna whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knew she had no right to ask anything of this creature, yet her heart ached at the thought of him being caught, of those fierce, protective eyes dimmed forever. The wolf tilted his head slightly, as if considering her words. But then, a sharp bark in the distance pulled his attention away. The search party was closing in, and time was running out. Anna took a trembling step forward. "Run, please." Her voice broke, the urgency raw and desperate. But instead of fleeing, the wolf padded closer, stopping just a few feet from her. He lowered his head, his golden eyes meeting hers in an unspoken promise. He would not run, not from this. The first of the search party burst into view, rifles raised, eyes wide as they took in the sight before them. The sheriff himself was at the forefront, his face flushed and stern. "Anna, step away!" he shouted, eyes flicking between her and the wolf. "No!" Anna yelled, throwing herself between the men and the animal. "You don't understand. He's not just a wolf. He's saved us. He's saved my daughter." Her voice quivered, but she stood firm, her arms outstretched as if she could shield him with her body alone. The sheriff's expression hardened, confusion and frustration mingling as he looked from Anna to the wolf. The animal's eyes remained fixed on the crowd, unblinking and fearless. The moment stretched, the forest holding its breath as the confrontation teetered on the edge of violence. Then, something shifted. From the trees came a soft rustling, and out stepped Mrs. Callahan, leaning on her cane, her eyes sharper than they had been in years. "Lower your guns, boys," she said, voice steady and commanding. "This wolf is no beast. He's a guardian. One that this town has forgotten, but that nature never did." The search party hesitated, eyes darting uncertainly. The sheriff's frown deepened, but the weight of the elder's words and Anna's unyielding stance seemed to press on him. With a deep, reluctant breath, he lowered his rifle. One by one, the others followed suit, the metallic clinks of safety catches clicking into place. Anna's legs threatened to give out from relief. She glanced back at the wolf, who stood with eyes still locked on the humans before him, muscles tense but calm. The moment stretched on as the crowd watched, waiting to see if the creature would bolt or lash out. But he did neither. Instead, he sat down, his posture regal and composed, as if to say, "I am here, and I am not afraid." In that profound silence, a breeze swept through, carrying with it the scent of pine and renewal. The sheriff stepped forward, eyes searching Anna's. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, voice low but sincere. Anna nodded, tears still wet on her cheeks. "Yes. He's part of this place, part of us." A murmur rippled through the crowd, some nodding in hesitant agreement, others exchanging nervous glances. The wolf, as if sensing the change, lifted his head and let out a soft, deep howl that resonated through the trees, a sound that spoke of freedom, loyalty, and a silent truce. Slowly, the search party dispersed, and the forest breathed again. Anna turned, heart swelling with gratitude, as the wolf met her gaze one last time before vanishing into the shadows of the woods, a ghost, a hero, and forever their guardian. As the weeks passed, life in Willow Creek began to settle back into a gentle rhythm, but the night of the break-in and the days that followed left an indelible mark on Anna and Lily. Stories of the wolf spread through the town, whispered in hushed tones around fireplaces and in the corner of the general store. For some, he was a beast, a wild thing that had dared to cross into human territory. But for others, he became a symbol of resilience, of the unseen bonds that connected all living things. Lily's drawings of their guardian grew more detailed, each one depicting the wolf with kind eyes and a regal stance. She would tell anyone who listened, "He's not just a wolf. He's a friend." And slowly, the fear that had gripped the town began to soften, replaced by a cautious curiosity and respect. Anna found herself walking to the edge of the woods more often, standing where the trees cast their long shadows, hoping for a glimpse of the creature who had risked everything for them. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, she thought she heard the faint echo of a howl, a reminder that he was still out there, watching over them. Mrs. Callahan, with her stories of old, became something of a town oracle, recounting tales of guardian spirits and the sacred pact between people and the wild. "It's not just legends," she'd say with a knowing smile. "It's in the moments we choose to see." One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Anna stood with Lily in the backyard. The breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of pine and freedom. For the first time in what felt like forever, Anna felt truly safe. Not just because of the locks on the doors or the light that glowed from their windows, but because she knew they were protected by something greater, a silent guardian who had chosen them. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the woods, a gray wolf lifted his head and listened to the laughter that drifted through the trees. His eyes, sharp and full of untamed wisdom, softened as he turned and melted back into the shadows, carrying with him the spirit of a protector, forever bound to the family he saved. It's an honor to be able to create content for you. If you want to support the channel even more, you can follow the instructions that I will leave on the pinned comment. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Love you all.